And that's closing the loop on some communications that we heard from pilot Mike Fink of NASA on board the Dragon Endeavour spacecraft, talking to the crew on the ground, looking to bring that temperature down just a little bit as they are in their suits and continuing that methodical approach to the International Space Station. And that's where this view is coming from. And we've been talking about the Cronus position inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room. That's the Communication Radio Frequency Onboard Network Utilization Specialist. That helps us put together these views. And actually, when you look inside of Mission Control, if you get a chance to visit Johnson Space Center, they are right in front of the Public Affairs Officer, where Sandra Jones is today doing commentary, and they have the access to work closely with the team to provide some of these great views from the International Space Station looking onto the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft. And we also just got word that we're going to be coming up soon on the go, no-go poll for Waypoint 2 as they continue to march closer and closer to Waypoint 1. Again, Waypoint 1 is 220 meters away. Waypoint 2 will bring the spacecraft to just 20 meters away from the International Space Station. We'll hear the results of that go, no-go poll here shortly. And then after those communications, that is when the spacecraft itself will have reached that Waypoint 1 mark.
We are getting closer and closer to seeing Crew-11 dock with the International Space Station, expecting that docking time to happen at 11:26 p.m. Pacific time. And again, really cool views. You could see Dragon getting clearer and clearer and closer to the International Space Station in this view. Again, we've got the dark background. That means that there's space behind Dragon, so it's moving from that waypoint 0, which was between Earth and the International Space Station. Now it's probably closer to being right next to the space station. And in your bottom left-hand corner, you can see the range or the distance from the space station, which is 381 meters from the space station. There's a better view to see a little bit more what that distance looks like as the Dragon spacecraft gets closer and closer to the station.
As these two continue to track down each other, they are currently flying over the North Pacific right now, some 250 plus statute miles above the Earth. And then in the bottom left there, you can see the distance of Dragon from the International Space Station, now 372 meters away, and have slowed down to now a 1 meter per second rate closure as the thrusters firing in that bottom right-hand side of your screen. Again, that fine-tuning necessary to properly align Dragon to be in the exact right space at the right time as we close in on Waypoint 1.
And with this view, you can tell that Dragon is basically next to the International Space Station, which means that it's about halfway to that Waypoint 1 point.
And again, these two vehicles are flying incredibly fast, 17,500 miles an hour. So when you see it in this perspective relative to each other, it looks like it's that slow and steady pace.
Looks like they're not moving.
But again, they're moving so quickly that an orbital daytime and orbital nighttime comes and goes very quickly, so much so about 90 minutes for each. So that's impressive to know how fast they have to move, but also how quickly they have to move to close in on each other to ultimately bring Crew-11 to its destination, the International Space Station, for the next several months.
Yeah, if you really like sunrises and sunsets, being an astronaut is a great job to have because you get about 15, 16 of those every single day.
And that's something that I know Zena Cardman has talked a lot about, is getting spectacular views of photos, and that's a wonderful view from Dragon to the International Space Station. And there you can see that backside of Space Station in shadow as the sun just off to that left-hand side of Earth.
That is such a cool view.
As the Dragon spacecraft now making its way up over top of the International Space Station. That gives you great perspective of where they're heading. That space-facing port, that zenith port of the Harmony modules. So you had them When we originally started, they were just underneath the International Space Station. Then they swung up to be right about in line to where the Crew-10 Dragon is, that forward port. Well, now they have a little bit more ways to go. And there's a great illustration in the middle of that screen there, that Dragon where the line kind of swooshes around the circle. That's the Dragon spacecraft. And it needs to get to the top of that circle, representing the International Space Station, before it can properly align itself to the docking access and get ready to close in for those final few moments before docking itself. But this grid gives a great illustration of that flying up and over top maneuver that Endeavour is currently experiencing.
Yeah, I literally love this view. This is so awesome to see the International Space Station with Earth in the background. Again, Dragon is going to be moving to above the space station, so we'll eventually see, this is a view from Dragon, so we'll eventually see a view from Dragon looking at the space station with Earth like all behind the space station. That's how you know that Dragon will be above the space station.
And they, again, are currently flying over the Pacific Ocean, just about to pass over Hawaii at the moment, as Crew-11 continuing that methodical approach, now 314 meters away from the International Space Station, closing in at about 1.1 meters per second. View on the left there is the over-the-shoulder look of Commander Zena Cardman and Mike Fink, and on the right is the view from the space station to the Dragon. And again, there's the International Space Station from Dragon on the left. And on that left-hand side, you can see the great solar arrays of the International Space Station, but you can also see the IROSAs, the rollout solar arrays on that left-hand side to help enhance the power of the International Space Station, collecting that sunlight, converting it into energy for the crew on board to fly the orbiting laboratory.
And Dragon also does have solar arrays attached to the Dragon trunk. It's just on half of the trunk, but similar. While Dragon is in space and while it's docked to the International Space Station, that's how the Dragon spacecraft will be powered for its duration of its mission until it comes back down for splashdown.
Now 294 meters away. The milestone we're looking to get to is 220. That is waypoint 1. And we just received note that that's going to be about 6 minutes away as Dragon Endeavour and Crew-11 continue its approach to the International Space Station, tracking approximately 2:26 a.m. Eastern Time, 11:26 p.m. Pacific Time, for what has been a full day for the crew, launching earlier this morning at 11:43 a.m. Eastern from Launch Complex 39A in NASA's Kennedy Space Center. And then would execute a sequence of burns after a nominal orbit insertion and great performances from Stage 1 and Stage 2 of the Falcon 9. And then would begin that stair step with those burns, the phase burn, boost burn, close burn, transfer burn, and then the final co-elliptic burn to get them into the position they're in now. And then the approach initiation burn is what started our broadcast today to begin that journey towards the space station, and now hitting those milestones. Waypoint 0 has come and gone, and now we're approaching waypoint 1, which again will be 220 meters that separates Dragon from the space station. And 10 meters to go. So again, continuing to close the gap between Dragon Endeavour and the International Space Station, currently flying over the South Pacific, as they are down to single digits in terms of meters between the Dragon Endeavour and Crew-11 on board and the International Space Station.
We should hear that call out for CHOP just about 30 seconds before the Dragon spacecraft is expected to soft capture with the International Space Station.
Those thrusters continuing to fire to push Dragon in even closer at 0.3 meters per second. Now about to be 5 meters away, and we'll wait for that contact call out.
5 meters.
Now 4 meters away. Continuing to hear him, we'll hear that CHOP call out And we'll wait for the call of the contact.
Good morning again from the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. We just wrapped up our joint coverage with SpaceX of Crew-11's arrival to the International Space Station.
Kimmy, I've got you loud and clear on the cabin mic on the big loop.
You're also loud and clear. Thank you.
Houston station on to the node 2 cam 1 is on. You guys are welcome aboard.
Copy all. We'll put that in work.
And if you're just joining us, we are awaiting Crew-11 to come on board the International Space Station following their docking at 1:27 a.m. Central this morning. The hatches were opened at 2:46 a.m. and it looks like we are having our first crew member float aboard right now. That is NASA astronaut Mike Fink for his 4th visit to the International Space Station. And it looks like his microgravity skills never left him. Joining in the hatch is NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers, who has helped step through all of the hatch opening procedures. Once the crew does float on board the International Space Station, we are targeting a welcome ceremony this morning at 4:15 a.m. Central. Again, if you're just joining us, Crew-11 docked to the International Space Station's zenith port of the Harmony module at 1:27 a.m. Central Time. Now coming through the hatch is Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov. This is his very first visit to the International Space Station. Some big hugs there with NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers and Johnny Kim. And continuing to get a warm welcome aboard the International Space Station for him, again, first-time flyer. And next through the hatch is JAXA, or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Kimi Yu. And now we have NASA astronaut Mike Fink for his 4th time to the International Space Station. And now coming into view is Zena Cardman. Again, her first time on board the International Space Station as well. Lots of smiles and hugs. 11 humans on board the International Space Station now. We are targeting a welcome ceremony this morning at 4:15 a.m. Central Time, rather. If you're just joining us, Crew-11 has just floated through the hatch of their Dragon spacecraft onto the International Space Station following their docking at 1:27 a.m. Central Time this morning. They did launch yesterday at 10:43 a.m. Central from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. With Crew-11's arrival to the International Space Station, the population on board is now 11 and will remain 11 crew members for a short time as Crew-10 and Crew-11 complete a brief handover period before Crew-10 undocks and splashes down off the coast of California.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is Station. We are ready for welcome remarks.
Please begin the welcome ceremony.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody on the ground from the International Space Station. And Endeavour crew, welcome on board. Yokoso, Daburo Pajalbach. And we are so happy and excited to see your smiling faces. And Zina, Oleg, congratulations on your first space flight. We are looking forward to hearing your impressions and your feelings about that. And Mike and Kimia, welcome back. Your experience will be an invaluable asset for Expedition 73. And we have a very busy handover period ahead of us, but I'm really looking forward to working with each of you. So now I will pass the microphone to Crew-11 Commander Zina Cardman.
You can tell I'm new. Hello. This has been the absolute journey of a lifetime. We are so incredibly grateful to be here. Thank you so much for this warm welcome. It was such an unbelievably beautiful sight to see the space station come into our view for the first time, especially with these wonderful crewmates. Oleg and I, both for the first time, and of course Mike and Kimia-san have so much experience that they bring to this team. With deep gratitude to everyone who got us ready for this moment. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Zena, and thank you to the Expedition 73 crew. You have made us feel so welcome. We're so glad to be here. We're happy to join you, and we will do our best to help the 73 crew who's on Crew 10 to get home safely. Your friends and family are waiting for you. In the meantime, this is a beautiful space station, and it's so good to be back, and we're here to take good care of it and help do our very best.
Oh, thank you very much for warm, very, very good welcome. And I'm so grateful to be here. We have great Crew-11 crew members and also this expedition members. Yeah, I'm very looking forward to working with them and make this Expedition 73 the best. I'll work hard. Thank you.
Thank you, Kibiya-san. I'm Oleg Platonov, and I'm also would like to say thank you very much for so warm meeting, and I believe and I hope we will have incredible and unbelievable time on board. И спасибо моим коллегам, будущим соэкипажникам. Я также благодарю вас за такую теплую встречу. И спасибо всем на Земле, кто готовил меня и наш экипаж и сделал все возможное, чтобы отправить нас сюда. Мы обещаем выполнить все наши задачи на самые высокие оценки и продвигать человечество в области космонавтики только вперед. Спасибо.
Ура. It's enthusiasm.
Thank you, guys, and once again, welcome on board the International Space Station. And Houston, back with you. That concludes our event.
Thank you to all participants. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications. Station Houston, back with you on to for big picture rest of the day.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, Tak, we were thinking of hopping right into the ISS safety briefing, and then for the rest of the day, we're going to try to move everything to the left as much as possible. The only exceptions would be the pink cipher ops, and then the non-Crew-11 PMCs. We think we can get everything else done earlier today. The only thing we ask is we keep those blue activities somewhat in the same order chronologically, just to make sure that we're all in sync. How copy?
Okay, copy all. Basically, we move everything to the left except for pink activity and also non-Crew-11 related PMC.
That is a good readback. Ready when you are.
And we are going to just start a safety briefing, so you guys can send a test command for caution warning tones.
Okay, sounds like a plan. We will give you a call when we're ready to send those.
Copy that.